On the 14th of April, 2024, a wall of brown water surged across the runways of Dubai International Airport. Planes sat stranded on the tarmac. Passengers waded through flooded terminals, dragging their luggage. The airport, which had proudly declared itself the busiest in the world by international passenger traffic, ground to a near-complete halt. The official cause was a historic storm, the heaviest rainfall the UAE had recorded in 75 years. But the chaos that unfolded over the following days revealed something the storm itself did not create. It only exposed what was already there. Dubai International Airport handles more than 90 million passengers a year. It is the connective tissue of a city, built on the idea that geography is destiny, that sitting at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa is an asset worth turning into an empire. Emirates Airline, the state carrier that operates from this airport, has spent 4 decades proving that bet right. For a long time, the numbers were hard to argue with. Then the numbers started telling a different story. The $11 billion figure in question does not refer to a single scandal or a sudden collapse. It refers to an accumulated infrastructure deficit, a gap between what Dubai International can handle and what is being asked of it, a gap that airport executives and aviation analysts have been warning about for years. A 2023 report from aviation consultancy firm CAPA, the Center for Aviation, described Terminal 2 at Dubai International as operating at a level of congestion that would be considered unacceptable at most major Western hubs. The airport was designed with a theoretical maximum capacity of around 90 million passengers annually. It has been operating at or above that ceiling for the better part of a decade. The consequences are mundane in isolation and damning in aggregate. Flight delays at Dubai International consistently rank among the worst of any major global hub. According to data from aviation analytics company Cirium, in 2023, fewer than 60% of flights departing Dubai International departed on time. That figure placed it well below Singapore's Changi, below Frankfurt, below even London Heathrow, which has its own long and painful history of capacity problems. Ground handling, the invisible infrastructure of luggage carts and fuel trucks and gate assignments, was flagged in multiple Emirates pilot union communications as dangerously overstretched. Baggage delays became so routine that frequent flyers began building them into their travel assumptions rather than reporting them as anomalies. None of this is a secret inside the aviation industry. The solution has been in planning since 2014, and it is enormous. Al Maktoum International Airport, located in the Jebel Ali district about 37 kilometers southwest of the city center, was originally conceived as a cargo facility. It was then redesignated as Dubai's future passenger hub, with an ambition that staggers even by Dubai's own standards. The Emirates ruler, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, announced in 2024 that the expansion of Al Maktoum International would cost $128 billion and eventually serve 160 million passengers per year. That would make it, by a significant margin, the largest airport on Earth. The announcement was received with the mixture of awe and skepticism that tends to greet Dubai's more ambitious proclamations. A Bloomberg report from 2024 noted that even under an accelerated construction timeline, Al Maktoum would not be ready to absorb Emirates Airline's full operations until at least 2034. That is a decade away. Which means Dubai International, already strained past its design limits, must continue absorbing growth for another 10 years before relief arrives. The question is not whether the new airport will eventually be built. Knowing Dubai, it probably will be. The question is, what happens in the interval, and whether the interval itself has already begun to cost the Emirate its competitive position. To understand the stakes, it helps to understand what Dubai International is competing against. The Persian Gulf Aviation Triangle, Dubai, Doha, and Abu Dhabi, has spent the last 2 decades reshaping global long-haul travel. Qatar Airways operates from Hamad International Airport in Doha, which opened in 2014 with a design capacity of 50 million passengers and a Damien Hirst sculpture of a lamp bear in the departures hall. By 2024, Hamad had expanded toward a capacity of 75 million and was being praised by Skytrax as the world's best airport. Etihad operates from Zayed International in Abu Dhabi, which completed a $10 billion expansion in late 2023, adding a terminal designed specifically for passengers connecting through rather than arriving, a direct pitch at Emirates' core business model. Emirates built its empire on the connecting passenger. The logic is elegant. Fly someone from Birmingham to Bangkok and offer them a better experience in Dubai than they would get in Frankfurt or Amsterdam, and you capture the fare, the layover spend, and the loyalty. That logic depends entirely on the transit experience being genuinely superior. When the airport floods and passengers sleep on terminal floors, when bags arrive 2 days after their owners, when gates change 4 times for a single flight, the logic inverts. The premium collapses, the connecting passenger starts looking at the competition. There is an argument, made with genuine conviction by Emirates executives and Dubai government officials, that the disruption is temporary and manageable. That the new airport represents such a quantum leap in capacity that short-term friction is a reasonable price to pay for long-term dominance. Emirates President Tim Clark, who spent decades building the airline into what it is, made similar arguments in interviews with CNN and the Financial Times in the years before his retirement. His successor, Adel Al-Redha, has continued to frame the situation in terms of transition rather than crisis. That framing deserves scrutiny. Emirates itself posted a record profit of $4.7 billion for the financial year ending March 2024, according to the airline's own published results. The carrier's order book includes over 200 wide-body aircraft, a commitment to growth that presupposes the infrastructure to accommodate it. But airlines and airports are different organisms. Emirates can order planes. It cannot, by itself, fix the airport. The airport is controlled by a separate entity, Dubai Airports, a government corporation whose capital expenditure decisions move through a different set of bureaucratic channels. The result is a structural mismatch, a world-class airline being partially throttled by the aging infrastructure it depends on. The April 2024 storm made this mismatch legible to the public in a way that years of delayed flights and lost luggage had not. Images of the flooded airport circulated globally. Social media posts from stranded passengers describing conditions at the terminal, inadequate food supplies, no clear communication from staff, overnight waits with no accommodation offered, reached audiences who had previously thought of Dubai International as a symbol of efficiency and modernity. The reputational cost is difficult to quantify, but it is real. According to the Skytrax 2024 rankings, Dubai International fell to 5th place globally, behind Hamad, Singapore, Changi, Tokyo, Haneda, and Seoul Incheon. It had ranked higher for years. The flooding itself raises a separate and uncomfortable question about planning. Dubai's drainage infrastructure was, until recently, almost non-existent by the standards of a city that receives an average of approximately 75 millimeters of rainfall per year. The historic storm deposited more than that in a single day. The inadequacy of the drainage system was not a surprise to engineers. A 2019 municipal study flagged drainage capacity as a significant vulnerability for the city's infrastructure. The airport, sitting on flat, reclaimed desert beside the creek, was always going to be among the most exposed locations. The storm was unusually severe, but the flooding was not entirely unforeseeable. What the flooding revealed, in the end, was a city and an airport operating in a condition that might be called structured optimism. The belief that growth will always arrive faster than its costs, that the next project will solve the problems the current one created, that the interval between today's constraints and tomorrow's solution is short enough to be safely ignored. This is not unique to Dubai. It is, in some form, the governing logic of every ambitious city in a hurry. What makes Dubai's version interesting is how high the stakes are, and how visible the consequences become when the logic fails, even briefly. The $11 billion figure deserves one more moment of unpacking. It comes, in varying forms, from several sources. A 2023 analysis by the Gulf Research Center estimated the cumulative infrastructure investment gap at Dubai International, accounting for deferred maintenance, capacity overrun costs, and the operational expenses of running a facility beyond its designed limits, at somewhere between $9 and $12 billion over the preceding decade. It is not a single line item. It is the invisible tax that a city pays when it builds the airline before it builds the airport. The irony is that Dubai knows how to build airports. It has done it before. Terminal 3 at Dubai International, which opened in 2008 exclusively for Emirates flights, was at the time the largest building by floor space ever constructed. It was bold, it was expensive, and it worked. The problem is not ambition. The problem is sequencing. Al Maktoum Airport's expansion was announced, delayed, renegotiated, and re-announced across a period spanning nearly 2 decades. Every year of delay is another year of Dubai International absorbing passengers it was never meant to handle. The deeper issue is what this period of strain does to the brand. Dubai's proposition to the world has always been premised on seamlessness, the hotel check-in that works, the visa process that is faster than anyone expects, the terminal that feels like a luxury mall at 2 in the morning. When the seamlessness breaks down, it does not just create inconvenience, it creates doubt. Doubt, for a city that competes primarily on perception, is a more serious problem than a flooded runway. There is a version of the future in which Al Maktoum International opens on schedule, Emirates moves its operations south, and Dubai International becomes a secondary airport handling budget carriers and regional traffic. In that version, the disruptions of the early 2020s become a footnote, an awkward adolescence before the full adult scale of the city's aviation ambitions is realized. That version is plausible. The governments of the Gulf have delivered extraordinary infrastructure projects before, on timelines that skeptics said were impossible. There is another version in which Doha and Abu Dhabi, both operating newer, less congested facilities, quietly absorb the connecting passengers who find Dubai's transit experience no longer worth the premium. In that version, the delay matters, not fatally, but meaningfully. Market share, once conceded in aviation, is recovered slowly and at great expense. What the storm of April 2024 did was not destroy Dubai's airports, it did something more precise. It forced an honest reckoning with a decade of deferred decisions, and it did so in front of 90 million passengers worth of audience. The runways dried. The flights resumed. The luggage eventually arrived. But the image of water pouring through the departures hall of the world's busiest airport stayed in the memory longer than the promotions and the award ceremonies and the record passenger numbers. A city built on the idea of the future cannot afford for its present to become too visible. For a few days in April, it was.